City of Forest Park. This is a council public hearing. The time is 7:32. So the purpose of this hearing is to consider the following: a rezoning order of 1125 and 1135 West Kemper Road from SPA 2 to Special Planning Area number 2 to O Office. And Chris, are you going to do a report on any of these, or? Okay. Well, if you want to take the podium over there, we're going to hear from our planning director, Chris Anderson.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
This is a rezoning that was requested by council. So council passed a resolution on May 26th to initiate the rezoning process for the former Aldi store on Kemper Road. As you know, this building has been vacant for a few months as Aldi moved their store to another location in Springdale, and the property's been on the market. The rezoning is chiefly, in my understanding, to limit the number of permitted uses at the property for the time being, at least. In particular, to avoid some uses that council does not want to see, such as dollar stores in particular. The Planning Commission reviewed this application last week and voted 7-0 to recommend approval to the City Council. So this is the required public hearing for any change in zoning, and we'll have another review opportunity at your next work session, and then there should be legislation for the August 1st meeting.
All right, does anyone have any questions for the planning director on the first item? I hear none. Yeah, Chris, if you want to just go through.
Okay.
Rip through them. No.
Thank you. This is the second item is the rezoning at Hamilton and Waycross. This actually was on a little earlier schedule. It ran through the same process of the City Council passing a resolution to initiate the rezoning process. Then we advertised it, sent out letters, had the Planning Commission meeting. That meeting was in May, and the Planning Commission at that meeting voted 6-0 to recommend approval of the rezoning, which is for 12 plus acres at Waycross, south side of Waycross Road, east of Hamilton Avenue, city-owned property that once housed a Kmart and a shopping center. We do have a proposal to develop that property that has been accepted. It's still the final details of a development agreement are still being negotiated, but this is one of the elements of that RFP process. The other one that will be coming up to you is a CRA, Community Reinvestment Area. Elements that need to be put in place by the city to complete that deal. And again, we'll have this on the work session for next week and legislation on the 1st.
Anyone have questions on that one, on the item?
All right, move on to the third.
Yes.
The third is, this is property at 639 Northland Boulevard, which is now currently occupied by United Precision Services, and that's a branch of Magna Machine Company. Magna, this property originally had planned business zoning, and Magna needed a different zoning in order to make use of the property, which they intended to purchase. And as you all know, they did purchase and partially demolished the shopping center. that had been there and had been causing some issues for the city under the previous ownership with some crime and disorder, really. Um, and that was a project that was incentivized by both the city, the county, and the state in order to help get that done. Um, and it was spearheaded by our former economic development director, Paul Brown. Uh, one one piece of this that we just recently discovered it hadn't taken place was the actual public hearing for the rezoning. So we need to go ahead and do that, get that in place so that we can. Quite often we get requests for due diligence on properties, and if we weren't to do this, it could limit the opportunities to, say, refinance or sell the property in the future. So that's how that this came up. And again, it would be the same schedule that we have, which is we'll have an opportunity to go over it in detail outside of the 30 minutes that we've allocated for this public hearing. But at the time, that was supported by two resolutions of council and a unanimous planning commission vote for approval. So the recommendation is approval on that one. And that's all I have on that one. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for the planning director? All right, hearing none. Chris, you can go to the last item.
Yeah, so the final item is the special exceptions moratorium. When we scheduled this public hearing, which was over a month ago, I expected to have a recommendation for this, but I don't have that yet. We had a planning commission meeting scheduled for June that we had a lack of a quorum, so we couldn't hold that meeting. And then this month's meeting, the July meeting, I was out sick and not able to lead a discussion on that. So it'll go to the next planning commission meeting and come to you probably when you get back from recess.
Okay. All right. So, all right. Councilmember Adams?
Yes. Sir, can you please just kind of recap on your item number 2? Just again, I caught some of it, but not all of it, please.
Oh, sure.
Thank you so much.
This is property that it once had a Kmart store on it that was built in 1981. Subsequently closed when Kmart built a second store in Forest Park over by Home Depot. So that was the first commercial property that showed any blight in the city, and was a real concern for the city administration and city council when I came here in 2001. It was still privately owned, and Kmart was still paying their lease, but nothing was happening, and the property was just sitting there and slowly deteriorating. There was interest from a church in purchasing the property, which the city didn't really support at the time because this is property that can be productive tax-generating land for the city. So the city bought the property out of foreclosure at the sheriff's auction. I think that year was 2004, and then subsequently, through negotiation, purchased the adjacent shopping center, which was mostly empty, and tore down all the structures, left the parking lot. So that comprises 12 acres that sits kind of behind Taco Bell and Family Dollar. And it does have some access to Hamilton, but just really driveway access. The main frontage is on Waycross, and that would be the orientation of the property. This year we did a request for proposals. If you recall, the Rise development that council reviewed a couple of times was out there and had quite a bit of interest in the property. There was another local developer that had interest in the property. And then the proposal that was selected was the one from Vanderkar and they had another partner, real estate firm whose name is escaping me at the moment. But that partnership was selected to do a single building redevelopment in flexible space of office warehouse type, probably build to suit for a single company. In order to do that, they would need to have a different zoning than they have now. And that's the reason that council passed the resolution to initiate the rezoning and why we're going through this process now.
Okay, thank you so much. 18 years later.
Councilmember Harrison, you got a question?
I did not.
Oh.
I'll just fix my glasses.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions on any of these agenda items? All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor.
I guess at this time,
Break time.
yeah, right. Does any member of the public have any questions on the agenda items that was discussed? All right. Hearing none, I guess we can end the public hearing. So this concludes our public hearing, and then we're gonna just break for recess until council comes in at 8 o'clock. So we have 16 minutes.
Oh, Mayor, one last thing I should have mentioned.
No.
On that last item, we will be scheduling another public hearing because we didn't bring a recommendation tonight
Right. Okay.
for that item alone. And
That one.
that'll be the first meeting in September.
Okay. All right. That makes sense then.
Thank you.
All right. So this public hearing is concluded. City of Forest Park City Council meeting today is July 18th. We are going to start by standing and saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Adams,
Present.
Brown,
Here.
Clark,
Here.
Harrison,
Here.
Holt, here, Moore, here, Sylvester.
Here. All right. All council members are present. Moving on to item number 2 on the agenda is the minutes. Has everyone received the minutes? Are there any corrections or adjustments to be made? All right, hearing none, we're going to move on to item number 3, which is presentations. This item we are actually going to skip, so we can just go ahead and go to item number 4 for communications from the public. So this is a time for citizens to comment on matters before council or to ask questions of concern to them. So when recognized, please come forward to the podium, give your name and address, and then state your comments or questions. Council meetings are tape recorded for ease of transcription, and comments are limited to 5 minutes. So anyone want to come up to the podium and air any grievances or just tell us how nice we all look today? All right. Ma'am.
Hi, I'm Sharice Wilson. I'm at 768 Cascade Road, 45240. And I'm here. Yes, you all look lovely tonight, so I thought I would respond to that. I am here because I spoke, I believe in March, about doing a community garden in Forest Park. Still working on that process. I've had some communication technical difficulties with people, busy schedules and just life. But things are moving, and hopefully I'll have some more responses and some more understanding as to what's coming to get this going for our community, because we do need access to food and doing a food share so that there is fresh food for people in our community, because a community without food isn't really a community. And I want to keep Forest Park a diverse and inclusive and happy, healthy community, and we're working on that. Okay. That's it. That's all.
Thank you. All right, does any council members have any questions?
Who's the staff with the city that's giving you assistance with?
Jay
Okay.
Dennis, sorry, yeah.
All right.
We just played phone tag and email tag. He got COVID, I had a death in my family, and then my son graduated, so it's kind of been a lot, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think with Jermaine working with you as well?
I have not yet reached out to him. I was supposed to be meeting with the We Thrive group, but things just kind of fell apart.
Okay, yeah, all right. Yeah, that's.
Thank you.
That's great for me, but-
Yeah, meeting with We Thrive would be really good or beneficial for that initiative. But thank you for your diligence, and stay on top of us.
I know we agreed to let the fire department
supply water.
Oh, yeah, that'd be good. All right,
That's the biggest issue.
yeah, I wonder if we can partner with Kroger to provide, like, any rotten produce to make compost or anything,
That would be a great idea.
because I think that'd be good.
Compost bins and stuff?
Yes.
You do?
It's
Okay.
it's part of the solid waste. There's a process you have to go through, and you have to buy them, but they're really cheap.
Have something else.
Yeah, through the solid waste department, they just had a class here about a month or so back. And, you take the class on how to compost, and as part of that, you can buy a bin for like $20 or something. It's some number, I'm not sure what it is, but it's through solid waste, and I can get you all the information about that.
Good. That's good. All right. So moving on, we're going to go to item number 5, which is reports of standing committees, and we're going to start with Councilmember Adams.
No report to give at this time, sir.
All right. Thank you. I don't have any items on the next work session. Do you have any to add?
No, sir, no items to add at this time.
Okay. Moving on to Councilmember Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have any report to add. Just a point of awareness for our residents. There has been an uptick in theft of vehicles and things of that nature, property. And so please be mindful and be careful. Look out for one another in your neighborhoods.
All right. And I don't have any items on the work session agenda. Do you have any to add?
I do not.
All right. Thank you. Moving on to Councilmember Harrison.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I have nothing to add at this time for this committee. But for the work session, I'd like to possibly talk about speed bumps.
Speed bumps.
Yes, or even temporary speed bumps. I've seen some on my way to work, and I happened to pass when they were putting them in. I'm thinking, like, we could probably use that in some of our streets. I know I could use it on my street because they treat it like a German Autobahn. So I'd like to bring that to the next work session.
Okay. And I know we were having a discussion about roundabouts at one point too, so I think this would be a good time to kind of loop that all in there.
We have,
And together.
our city engineer has been looking into just exactly what the council member's talking about, those temporary speed bumps.
Right, they just drill them into the ground.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
rubber.
Mhm.
And he's looking into that, and he's got some good information on that. So he's been working on that particular item.
Oh, good.
And so it'd be a good opportunity to bring him and have him tell us about it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Harrison. Moving on to First Vice Mayor Holt.
I don't have any report tonight, but I would like to add on the agenda for next week, somebody come in from property maintenance.
Okay. Property maintenance. Is there anything in particular you want them to discuss, or you want them to just give a report?
The city,
Okay.
it could be almost every street in Forest Park that needs attention.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that, Vice Mayor Holt. Moving on to Second Vice Mayor Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do not have a report at this time.
All right. And do you have any items to add to the work session?
No, I do not.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Moore. And moving on to Councilmember Sylvester.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I do not have a report at this time.
Okay. All right. Do you have any items to add to the work session?
I would like to have us to visit the Forest Park staffing. I know we've had some changes, just to kind of get a status on how we are viewing things in the coming months. Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that, Councilmember Sylvester. And this concludes the reports from our council members. Moving on to item number 6, which is the mayor's report. I don't have any formal report. I am going to add to the work session agenda continuation of our decriminalization discussion for marijuana. And then also, I want to make remarks that I did make it out to our Party in the Park event last Tuesday, which was really good. It was actually a pretty good turnout. I hadn't made it to the one prior, but I believe we have one more before Jazz in the Park on August 6th. Is that correct, Don?
No, actually, it says September 13th.
Oh, is that so? It's going to be
It's
after.
just after,
Jazz
but we're gonna try and do one, there may be one.
Okay.
We can get it together. It's unofficial right now.
Okay. All right, good. So then, just making sure all of our residents are aware that Jazz in the Park is going to be August 6th, and then I'm sure Don will have a lot more information on that. So that concludes my report. So we're going to move on to item number 7, which is the city manager's report.
Thank you. Yes, just jumping around on top of that, we had the 2 parties in the park, and I think they were very successful. We had very good turnouts. Food trucks the folks did really well, and so everybody seemed to be happy. And the next one will be in September, September 13th, I believe, is the 12th, 13th, I believe, the Tuesday evening. Again, this starts at 6. The grounds open. The music starts at 7, from 7 to 9. So get there. It's probably going to be a little dark then. It'd be getting dark a little bit sooner. So, but still, keep an eye out and show up and have a great time. It's all free. The food's not free, obviously, but the free admission to the music. Everybody has a great time. Bring a chair. Just sit there and relax and meet some friends, talk a little bit, and have a good time. The big event coming up is August the 6th. That's our Jazz Fest, and we look forward to bringing that back to the citizens here. It's historic. We haven't had it, I think, for the last 2 years because of COVID, and so we look forward to bringing that back. We have a Grammy Award winner as the headliner, and there'll be some other acts as well. So come there, spend the day, check our website out for more information. So when it starts, and again, that's all free. There'll be food trucks, there'll be vendors, but the music and the entertainment is all free to the citizens and anyone else who wants to come by. So we look forward to hosting that again this year and providing that to our citizens. One of the things that we are working on is the Black Family Reunion with the mayor.
That's right.
And that will be, I think, the week after, or the 2 weeks after. I'm not sure the
That's going to
date.
be August 18th through the 21st. So for the first time ever, the City of Forest Park is one of the sponsors for the annual Black Family Reunion. So this is going to be a really fun event. I'm encouraging all the council to come out. We're going to march in the parade. We're going to go down and eat the food and listen to the music, but also we are trying to partner with the school as well to have the football team, the Division II state champions, march with us. We're going to come out with a fire truck, and the band is also going to be with us. And, when Wood's band is world renowned, but it's just really time to show the rest of the county that Forest Park is on the map and that we are a large city with a lot of things to offer, a lot of great things to do, and it's time that we connect with the rest of the county and all of the events that we have out here.
So we'll have a lot of the information on that on our website as well, and Facebook, and remind everyone. So, yes, we'll be participating in the parade and some of the events down there, but also I want to remind the citizens that come down, support us,
Please come
support the event, and make a week of it. I mean, it's 3 or 4, 5 days of stuff going on, and so it's a lot of things. And so you don't have to come every day, but it'd be great to get a nice turnout from City of Forest Park when we're marching with the schools and in the city, and show solidarity with the community.
Also, Mr. Mayor and City Manager Jones, make sure the residents go check out our logo on the website. So make sure you check out the website.
Our logo is already up as a participating sponsor for the Black Family Reunions website. So if people want to go to, the name of the website escapes me right now. It might be, it might be Black Family Reunion, or it might be BFR. But if you Google it, Cincinnati Black Family Reunion, you look at the sponsors, our logo is up on the website, and it's just really exciting. It's about time, and thanks to Don and the rest of the council that we ventured out to do this.
And Councilor Rosalmore, also Dr. Moore, was part of those meetings as well. So I thank council support, and we think it's going to be a great idea, great event, and I look forward to it. I think it'll be a lot of fun, and it's something that we should have been doing all along.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we're doing it this year. Now that COVID's over, we can get that over. Now that COVID is, the county's open, the city's open, and we can go and do these types of things. So it's good to get back out and get some sense of normalcy in our lives.
Right.
And this will be a nice event, particularly with the kids. As many of those that we can get, the band and the football team and anyone else or the other kids as well. I mean, this is an open parade for the city of Forest Park to come and participate. And we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, and hopefully in the future we can get them to start having events out here because they have events all week just as like a kickoff. There's a prayer breakfast and everything, but this is just the start to a long and beautiful relationship. I do want to thank the superintendent too for because once I told him he was very ecstatic to get the band and the football team involved as well. So
Yeah, it's going to be really nice, and it's great. It shows a lot of community pride, and community, the ability to work together for good causes, and this is something that I think will be very nice. And I think the best part of it is the first step toward a longer partnership that brings some of the events, which I think is important. A lot of the events are downtown and centered in Cincinnati, but there's a large community out here in northern Cincinnati.
Right.
And to bring some of those events out here, to host some of those events, the opportunity to partner with them to have something out here, I think would be really nice. And that's what the goal would be into the future. So anyway, that's pretty much my report for this evening.
all right, thank you for that, Don. All right, moving on to item number 8, which is our other reports. We're going to start with our law director, Mr. John Wyckoff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Annually, I have to submit a report to Plattenberg and Associates for our audit purposes, and this is the first year that I can remember that I was able to report there are no pending or threatened litigation assessments, liens, any problems whatsoever from a legal standpoint. I had an opportunity to review a debt book proposal for the city and approve that with some minor comments. I also had an opportunity to review police general orders regarding searches, seizures, and arrests. And just to give you an idea of the detail, it is quite substantial. The police department, particularly Lieutenant Ward, did a great job putting this together. It ensures the safety of the officers as well as the citizens that may be involved in those situations. I reviewed the statutory authority for the city to sell property by not by going through a bidding process with Brenda Weimer, and I also had an opportunity to speak with a real estate lawyer we're using on the Boumel estate, and we have a conference tomorrow. That's at Chase Plaza, who owns what, and there are 2 or 3 different owners, and how are we, the conversation tomorrow is, what does the city need to do to push this forward? Right. It's just been a mess. The Boumel, unfortunately, Mr. Boumel died and made no provisions for this piece of property he owns up there. So it's, and then you tack on 2 or 3 more owners for the same piece of property, and it's quite complex.
And that doesn't automatically go to probate?
Well, that's the problem. The property that Boumel owns is so small it's worthless, and their lawyers don't want to go to probate because of the expense that would be involved. They are in probate now on the rest of his estate, and the magistrate just wants this done. I mean, he's given the instructions to their probate lawyers to just get it done. Well, of course, there's always one clown in every circus, and one of the owners thinks this is a $10,000, $50,000, $100,000 opportunity for that person, which it obviously is not. So we're just dealing with those types of issues, trying to get it resolved.
I understand.
That is the end of my report, unless there are any questions.
All right, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for our law director? All right, hearing none. Thank you for that, John. All right, moving on to our other report from our clerk of council, Ms. Sally Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do not have a report this evening.
Okay, thank you. So we are going to move on to item number 9, which is new business. And then we're going to start with an ordinance number 23-2022. And if I'm understanding this correctly, Ms. Boyd, everything is to be read in full tonight?
Yes.
All right, so bear with us. If at any point in time anyone in the audience needs to kind of duck out, this is the time to do that. So Will the clerk please read ordinance number 23-2022 in full?
Ordinance number 23-2022, amending appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Forest Park, State of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2022. Whereas the 2022 annual appropriations were established in ordinance number 29-2021 and were adopted by City Council on December 20th, 2021, and whereas the anticipated revenue and expenditures are coming in as anticipated for the general fund and other funds of the city, and whereas appropriations must be within available resources per the Ohio Revised Code, and whereas an amended certificate of resources is being requested from the Hamilton County Budget Commission, now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Forest Park, Ohio, Section 1, that the 2022 Annual Appropriation Ordinance 29-2021, 05-2022, and 22-2022 as hereby amended to the amounts listed on Exhibit 1. Section 2. The finance Director is authorized to make payments utilizing the city's treasury for expenditures from any of the foregoing appropriations upon receiving proper certification. The Finance Director is hereby authorized to administer and monitor purchase requisitions approved by department directors and authorized by law, by ordinance, or by resolution. The Finance Director is hereby authorized to pay salaries in accordance with the city's salary resolution and within the personal service appropriations listed in Exhibit 1. Section 3. The Finance Director is hereby authorized to transfer or advance amounts included in the appropriation to the correct funds as listed on Exhibit 2. Section 4. This appropriation ordinance will be enforced and take effect on its passage pursuant to the provisions of Section 12.05 of the Charter of the City of Forest Park, Ohio.
All right, thank you for that, Sally. Is there a motion, Councilmember Sylvester?
Yes, I move that we adopt ordinance number 23-2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion?
No further discussions in regards to receive the details of the ordinance reading.
Okay. Really quick though, Don, I do have a question. So there are, just reading over the report, there are no like substantial amendments that need to be made to the appropriations other than.
The financing,
Okay.
that's the primary reason for that.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm good.
The specialist, as Sally just read, the budget has to be within what's called estimated resources, and the city receives a certificate of estimated resources each year, and then we can budget to that.
Right.
If we're going out and leasing or borrowing money, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit, for our fire trucks and for our snowplows, those funds that are coming from the lease company actually increase the certificate of estimated resources. So we have to increase the certificate of estimated resources, which she's done. You send that to the county and they process it, and then we can increase the budget by that amount.
Okay.
to cover that financing.
Okay.
So that's kind of the reason for it.
All right. Thanks for that, Don. All right. Will the clerk please call a roll on the motion to adopt?
Adams.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
Holt.
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Sylvester.
Yes.
Okay. Ordinance number 23-2022 passes. Moving on to the next one, ordinance number 24-2022. Will the clerk please read that in full also?
Ordinance number 24-2022. An ordinance continuing the levy of special assessments for the purpose of constructing certain improvements, recertifying such special assessments to the county auditor for collection and declaring an emergency. Whereas this council by resolution number 02-2004, adopted January 20th, 2004, has declared the necessity of acquiring and constructing the improvements described in such resolution and has adopted the assessments with respect to such improvements prepared and filed with the clerk of council and by ordinance number 02-2004, adopted on January 20th, 2004, determined to proceed with said improvements. And whereas the City of Forest Park has, pursuant to Chapter 727 of the Ohio Revised Code, authorized the assessments be levied and collected prior to the commencement of construction of the improvements identified in such resolution, hereinafter called the improvements. And by ordinance number 03-2004, adopted on January 20th, 2004, levied the assessments for collection over a period of 29 years commencing in 2005 and ending in 2033. And whereas due to clerical errors and assessments are not currently being collected, and whereas due to clerical errors, the assessments are not currently being collected and need to be recertified to the county auditor. Now therefore be it ordained by the council of the City of Forest Park, Ohio, Section 1, that the list of assessments of the cost and expense of the improvements amounting in the aggregate to $18 million plus administrative expenses, which were set forth in the petition requesting the improvements previously accepted by this council, known as the petition, as previously reported to this council on file in the office of the clerk of this council. B, and the same having been previously adopted, is hereby confirmed that there be and are hereby levied and assessed upon the lots and lands bounding and abutting upon the improvements the several amounts reported on such list and as set forth on Exhibit A attached hereto, to be paid annually for a period of 29 years commencing in 2005 and ending in 2033. Section 2, that this council hereby finds and determines that the assessments as now on file in the office of said clerk are in proportion to the benefits received as set forth in the petition. Section 3, that the assessments against each lot or parcel of land shall be certified by the clerk of council to the county auditor as provided by law, to be placed by him or her on the tax duplicate and collected as set forth in the petition, as other taxes are collected. The assessments collected shall be used by the city to meet its obligations under the cooperative agreement entered into among the City of Fairfield, Ohio, the Port of Greater Cincinnati Development Authority, and Cincinnati Mills, LLC. Section 4, that the clerk of council shall cause a notice of the adoption of this ordinance to be posted in the city and to continue on file in his or her office said assessments. Section 5, the clerk of council is hereby directed to deliver a certified copy of this ordinance to the county auditor within 20 days after its adoption. Section 6, that it is found and determined that all formal actions of this council concerning and relating to the adoption of this ordinance were adopted in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council and of any of its committees that resulted in such formal action were in meetings open to the public in compliance with all legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 7, that this ordinance is hereby declared to be an emergency measure necessary for the immediate preservation of the public peace, health, safety, and welfare of this city, and for the further reason that the immediate adoption of said ordinance is necessary for the continued collection of special assessments previously levied. Therefore, this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and immediately after its passage.
All right, thank you for that, Sally. Is there a motion, Councilmember Sylvester?
Yes, I move that we adopt ordinance number 24-2022.
Second.
Been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion?
Other than that, we can move on the action of getting the collections involved.
All right, will the clerk please call the roll on the motion to adopt?
Brown,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Holt,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Sylvester,
Yes.
Adams.
Yes.
All right, ordinance number 24-2022 passes. Moving on to item number C, which is ordinance number 25-2022. Will the clerk please read that item in full?
Ordinance number 25-2022. Ordinance authorizing the City of Forest Park, Ohio to enter into a lease purchase agreement to finance the purchase of a Quint truck for the fire department of the City of Forest Park and authorizing other documents in connection therewith and declaring an emergency. Whereas the City of Forest Park, Ohio desires to finance the purchase of a Quint truck for the fire department for the purpose of providing certain services in the city, and whereas the financing and leasing of the property will be in the best interest of the city, and whereas the city intends to enter into an equipment lease purchase agreement as a means to finance the acquisition of the property. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Forest Park, Ohio, Section 1, that for the purpose of providing a Quint truck for the fire department of the city and the services rendered thereby, this council hereby determines that it shall lease under the agreement the property from such financial institution as is selected by the finance director without further action of this council. Section 2, that the agreement shall include a statement to the effect that the city's obligations thereunder are not general obligations, debt or bonded indebtedness of the city or of the state or any political subdivision thereof, and the lessor has no right to have excises or taxes levied by the city or the state or any political subdivision, therefore for the payment of rental payments thereunder, and that the right of such payment is limited, subject to annual appropriation of all payments to the rentals and other revenues pledged for such purpose under the agreement, including an applicable payment schedule, which is hereby authorized, and such statement is true and correct as it applies to the agreement. Section 3, that the city is authorized to lease the properties. Section 4, that for the purpose of providing the property and payment of costs of issuance to the city, this council hereby authorizes and directs the city manager and the finance director of the city to execute on behalf of the city the agreement, a payment schedule, and escrow agreement if required, and any exhibits thereto in a total principal amount not to exceed $1,100,000 at an interest rate of not to exceed 5.5% per annum for the term not more than 11 years, including all renewal terms pursuant to the agreement as approved by legal counsel to the city. And the agreements, covenants, and promises therein made on behalf of the city shall be conclusively binding on the city and in full force and effect from and after the execution of the agreement. Section 5, that this council hereby authorizes and directs the city manager and the finance director of the city, or either of them, to execute and deliver a non-arbitrage certificate and such other documents and certificates, and to do all of the acts and things required of it by the provisions of the agreement, to the end that full and complete performance of all of the terms, covenants, and provisions of the agreement shall be effected. Section 6, that the approval of the agreement and other documents and certificates authorized by this ordinance, including all terms therein, shall be conclusively evidenced by the execution of said documents by the city manager and the finance director of the city, or any one of them. Section 7, that this council hereby covenants that it will take such actions in such manner and to such extent, if any, as may be necessary to cause the interest component of rental payments under the agreement to be and remain excludable from gross income for federal income tax purposes. This council will also submit the appropriate statements or filings to the Internal Revenue Service containing the information required by the Internal Revenue Code, including IRS Form 8038G. Section 8, that the obligations under the agreement are hereby designated qualified tax exempt obligations for the purpose set forth in Section 265 of the Internal Revenue Code. The city does not anticipate issuing more than $10 million of qualified tax exempt obligations, $10 million of qualified tax exempt obligations during the calendar year 2022. Section 10, this council hereby approves the issuance of the obligations for the financing of the property.
Section 9, I'm sorry.
Did I skip section 9? Okay, I'm sorry. Section 9, there has been appropriated from funds currently on deposit in the Fire Capital Fund of the city the sum of $62,375 to pay the cost of lease payments due or coming due under the lease for the initial term ending December 31st, 2022. Section 10, this council hereby approves the issuance of the obligations for the financing of the property. Section 11, that it is found and determined that all formal actions of this council concerning and relating to the adoption of this resolution were taken in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council and of any of its committees that resulted in such formal action were in meetings open to the public in compliance with all legal requirements, including Section 121.22, Ohio Revised Code, and the rules of this council adopted in accordance therewith. Section 12, that this ordinance is hereby declared to be an emergency measure for the immediate preservation of the public peace, health, safety, and welfare of the inhabitants of the city, and for the reason that the immediate issuance of said lease obligation is required for the orderly and timely financing of the property referred to herein, including obtaining a favorable rate of interest. Therefore, this ordinance shall take effect and be enforced from and immediately after its passage and approval by the mayor.
Thank you for that, Sally. Is there a motion? Councilmember Sylvester.
I move to adopt ordinance number 25-2022.
Been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion?
No further discussion, just a question in regards to prior orders that we've had and related to fire truck purchase.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a tie-in based on now we're moving to a lease format now?
No, the purchase or lease of a fire truck, it's the same. At the end of the day, we will own the truck with a dollar buyout normally. So this is just a financing tool. Rather than issuing a bond, we do a lease.
Okay.
And it's the same, it has the same effect.
Same effect.
Yeah, so it's just a way to finance the total purchase.
All right. Thanks for that clarity.
This in regards to the same
Yes,
acquisition?
it's the same acquisition.
Right.
It's just we approved the purchase of the truck. Now we're approving the financing of it.
Mm-hmm.
Process. All right. Thank you, Don.
All right, will the clerk please call the roll on the motion to adopt?
Clark,
Yes?
Harrison,
Yes.
Holt,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Sylvester,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes. All right, ordinance number 25-2022 passes. So moving on to ordinance number 26-2022. Will the clerk please read that in full also?
Ordinance number 26-2022. Ordinance authorizing the city of Forest Park, Ohio to enter into a lease purchase agreement to finance the purchase of snow plows for the city of Forest Park and authorizing other documents in connection therewith and declaring an emergency. Whereas the city of Forest Park, Ohio desires to finance the purchase of snow plows for the Public Works Department for the purchase of providing certain services in the city. And whereas the financing and leasing of the property will be in the best interest of the city. And whereas the city intends to enter into an equipment lease purchase agreement. as a means to finance the acquisition of the property. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Forest Park, Ohio. Section 1, that for the purpose of providing snowplows for the Public Works Department and the services rendered thereby, this council hereby determines that it shall lease under the agreement the property from such financial institution as selected by the finance director without further action of this council. Section 2, that the agreement shall include a statement to the effect that the city's obligations thereunder are not general obligations, debt, or bonded indebtedness of the city or of the state or any political subdivision thereof, and the lessor has no right to have excises or taxes levied by the city or the state or any political subdivision thereof for the payment of rental payments thereunder, and that the right of such payment is limited, subject to annual appropriation of all payments to the rentals and other revenues pledged for such purpose under the agreement, including an applicable payable schedule, which is hereby authorized, and such statement is true and correct as it applies to the agreement. Section 3, that the city is authorized to lease the property. Section 4, that for the purpose of providing property and payment of the cost of issuance to the city, this council hereby authorizes and directs the city manager and the finance director of the city to execute on behalf of the city the agreement, a payment schedule, and escrow agreement if required, and any exhibits thereto in a total principal amount not to exceed $500,000 at an interest rate of not to exceed 5% per annum for a term of not more than 8 years, including all renewal terms pursuant to the agreement as approved by the legal counsel of the city, and the agreements, covenants, and promises therein made on behalf of the city shall be conclusively binding on the city and in full force and effect from and after the execution of the agreement. Section 5, that this council hereby authorizes and directs the city manager and the finance director of the city or either of them to execute and deliver a non-arbitrage certificate and such other documents and certificates, and to do all the acts and things required of it by the provisions of the agreement, to the end that full and complete performance of all of the terms, covenants, and provisions of the agreement shall be effected. Section 6, that the approval of the agreement and other documents and certificates authorized by this ordinance, including all terms therein, shall be conclusively evidenced by the execution of said documents by the city manager and the finance director of the city, or any one of them. Section 7, that this council hereby covenants that it will take such actions in such manner and to such extent, if any, as may be necessary to cause the interest component of rental payments under the agreement to be and remain excludable from gross income for federal income tax purposes. This council will also submit the appropriate statements or filings to the Internal Revenue Service containing the information required by the Internal Revenue Code, including IRS Form 803AG. Section 8, that the obligations under the agreement are hereby designated qualified tax-exempt obligations for the purpose set forth in Section 265 of the Internal Revenue Code. The city does not anticipate issuing more than $10 million of qualified tax-exempt obligations during the calendar year 2022. Section 9, there has been appropriated from funds currently on deposit in the street and highway funds of the city the sum $80,850 to pay the costs of lease payments due or coming due under the lease for the initial term ending December 31st, 2022. Section 10, this council hereby approves the issuance of the obligations for financing of the property. Section 11, that it is found and determined that all formal actions of this council concerning and relating to the adoption of this resolution were taken in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council and of any of its committees that resulted in such formal action were in meetings open to the public in compliance with all legal requirements, including section 121.22 Ohio Revised Code, and the rules of this council adopted in accordance therewith. Section 12, that this ordinance hereby declared to be an emergency measure for the immediate preservation of the public peace, health, safety, and welfare of the inhabitants of the city, for the reason that the immediate issuance of said lease obligation is required for the orderly and timely financing of the property referred to herein, including obtaining a favorable rate of interest. Therefore, this ordinance shall take effect and be enforced from and immediately after its passage and approval by the mayor.
All right, thank you for that, Ms. Boyd. Is there a motion, Councilmember Sylvester?
Yes, I move to adopt ordinance number 26-2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion?
Other than the city is taking action to make great improvement with road work around the city of Forest Park and having proper maintenance equipment to sustain those roads would be appropriate. So.
Okay. I warned you this would be boring, no, but it's important work. So will the clerk please call the roll on the motion to adopt?
Harrison,
Yes.
Holt,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Sylvester,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
All right, ordinance number 26-2022 passes. Moving on to item E, this is resolution number 28-2022. Will the clerk please read that in full also?
Resolution number 28-2022. A resolution condemning the May 14th, 2022 white supremacist terrorist attack at a supermarket in Buffalo, New York, expressing condolences and deepest sympathies to those lost, injured, or otherwise impacted. Whereas on May 14th, 2022, a mass shooting in Buffalo, New York killed 10 people and injured 3 others, and the alleged perpetrator of the act is believed to have published a lengthy manifesto stating numerous white supremacist ideologies. And whereas the alleged perpetrator is believed to have specifically targeted African Americans, and 11 of the 13 persons killed or injured in the rampage were black. And whereas the city of Forest Park condemns in no uncertain terms both the attack and the racist ideology behind the attack. And whereas the city also condemns all those that are bringing racist ideologies into the mainstream, which facilitates and the radicalization of persons like the alleged gunman in this case, and encourages everyone in the city to stop supporting anyone or any organization who tries to normalize racist theories. And whereas the city of Forest Park believes that immediate steps need to be taken at the local, state, and federal level to prevent and reverse radicalization, especially among young white men in this country. And whereas the city extends its thoughts and prayers to those impacted by the attack, now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Forest Park, Ohio, Section 1. A copy of this resolution will be sent to Governor Mike DeWine, the Forest Park delegation in the State Assembly, and Ohio's federal congressional delegation as a means of showing the city's support for increased restrictions on the purchase of firearms and for increased attention to methods of preventing radicalization.
All right, thank you for that, Ms. Boyd. Is there a motion, Councilwoman Clark?
Yes, I move that we adopt resolution number 28-2022.
A second, with the, I'm sorry, with the,
Seconded. Is there any discussion? We gotta.
yes, thank you so much. I'm still learning, thank you. With the exception that we just, there's a misspelling, and so just wanting to make sure that is corrected before we proceed any further with this.
The word
Resolution.
radicalization in the
Thank you.
second to last whereas.
Okay. Yeah, I see that. All right. Is there any further discussion?
No, I think it's been read in full. We were all pretty horrified as we watched, this situation play out. The fact that the individual decided to drive over 200 miles to target these individuals that pretty much look like us is certainly cause for concern. And so hopefully a number of other localities will be united in this work in trying to reduce this type of violence.
All right, will the clerk please call the roll on the motion to adopt?
Holt,
Yes.
Moore. I'm sorry. Okay. Sylvester,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
All right, resolution number 28-2022 passes, and that concludes all the items that we had. So is there any other business to come before the body? Is there any other business to come before the body? Is there any other business to come before the body? Hearing none, this council meeting is adjourned.